Nelson County was closed on Friday and on Monday because of threats of violence in the school in response to this altercation between police officers and the student. It's not a good look. It is not a good look. We'll show you the video today on the I Love CVille show. If you haven't seen the video, again, buckle up. Nelson County opened today. Protest and a walkout of students planned. Anytime you have violence in a school, you get concerned. I'll just show you the video. The video is going to speak for itself. We got some real estate news to get to today on the program. Mangione's on Main is for sale. Elena and Bert Mangione have a fantastic restaurant that currently is for sale. We got new businesses that have signed leases in Stonefield, which we will tell you about today on the I Love CVille show. We are jam-packed with news on the Tuesday edition. Alex Erpy is going to join us on the program. Chitter chatter with Alex Erpy to talk markets and finance on the program today. A lot to cover, guys. Give the show a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. We will get started in T-minus 15 seconds. Judah, we need 15 seconds and we can rock and roll, baby. All right, J-Dubs, we can rock. Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille show. It's the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show, and the show is absolutely jammed-packed. We will talk about new businesses opening in the shops of Stonefield. In fact, there are 3 of them. This is fresh news, breaking news, news that you will undoubtedly see in the print, radio, and television news cycle in a few days, certainly after we put it out there. But 3 new businesses coming to the shops at Stonefield. We got Mangione's on Main, a fantastic family-style Italian restaurant that is for sale. We'll kind of, assess Mangione's. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. I think it's an opportunity that's perfect for an aspiring restaurateur or a current restaurateur from a monthly rent standpoint, one of the most affordable rents that you will find in Charlottesville's otherwise expensive restaurant rental market. We'll talk Mangione's today on the show. I got video from Nelson County High School, guys. It's not pretty. Last week, 2 students got in a fight at Nelson County High School. You hate to see it, you hate to say it, but fights are going to happen in high school. One of the 2 students had a cousin that also went to Nelson County High School, goes to Nelson County High School. The cousin, who was not involved in the initial altercation, came to support the family member, have his family members back. As the third party, the 15-year-old who was not involved in the initial fight, came to his cousin's aid, 2 policemen, a sheriff and a deputy, detained the third party, the 15-year-old, and we have that video to show you. That story coming up on the program. Alex Erpy coming up on the program, Emergent Financial Services. We'll talk home prices increasing, Federal Reserve tapering, how the removal of financial stimulus may impact stocks, the economy, and the markets. and the impact of the hurricane in New Orleans on the oil ecosystem. So a lot to cover on the Tuesday edition. We're presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary, located next to Rapture Restaurant. Skooma Boutique Dispensary, your choice for CBD or Delta 8. David and the team at Skooma Boutique Dispensary have certificates of analyses for everything in the store. So if you have trouble sleeping, trouble with anxiety, relaxing, pain management, Skooma Boutique Dispensary most likely has something for you. Give David and Skooma a try next to Rapture. The lead of the show is a very unique opportunity. Mangione's on Main, currently for sale. My firm, VMV Brands, we're an advertising agency. We launched the predecessor of Mangione's, Bella's Restaurant. We worked alongside Valeria, alongside Douglas Muir. Justin Toff was the general manager then. And we launched Bella's family-style restaurant on West Main Street. The owner of Bella's, Douglas Muir, said some things years ago that he should not have said about the Black Lives Matter movement on social media. That led to a protest outside Bella's restaurant and eventually influenced Doug to sell a restaurant that otherwise was doing very, very well. Elena and Bert Mangione purchased the restaurant from Douglas and Valeria, rebranded it, which was a smart move. The Bella's brand at that time was somewhat tainted. Rebranded it Mangione's and continued the positive and the good things of Bella's at Mangione's. This restaurant is charming, it's intimate, it's in the heart of town, it's on West Main Street. Like I said, to lead the show from a price point standpoint, one of the most affordable rents you will find in the restaurant scene here in the city of Charlottesville. It's just a very good opportunity for someone who wants to get into the restaurant game. It's got a loyal following. It's in walking distance of the UVA corner, the downtown mall. It's in Midtown. Probably gets close to 10,000 cars, if not more, driving by it every single day. If you're an aspiring restaurateur, or if you're a restaurateur that wants to maybe get a more intimate space, a bit smaller space and a little lower overhead, Mangione's is the choice, is the spot, is something you should consider. Quentin Beckham has the listing. He's the business broker here. Quentin Beckham is A++ people, honest guy, high integrity guy. If you're interested in purchasing Mangione's, he's your point of contact, Quentin Beckham. Guys, I just see tremendous potential with this family-style Italian restaurant. Loyal staff, loyal customer base, primo location. Elena and Bert, the owners of Mangione's, are looking to pass the reins to another community steward who will continue the fabulous legacy of their namesake restaurant. I will follow this closely, and I wish Elena and Bert nothing but the best. Elena are you a CPA, Elena? I believe you're a CPA and accountant, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, if you could. I believe you're a CPA. During the pandemic, when so much uncertainty and unknown was happening, and many restaurant owners were asking, how the hell are we going to stay open? Elena Mangione helped restaurant owners in this community apply for PPP, offered North Star type of guidance on how to navigate the PPP process. She's just a great person. Like just a stand-up A+ person. I would love to see Mangione's purchased by another family, another couple, an entrepreneur in this area that understands the legacy and the brand recognition that comes with this spot. Would really, really, really love to see it. And speaking of new business, we got some breaking news for you. You will see this undoubtedly on the TV stations and the newspaper in the next few days after we talk about it today on the show. You got 3 new leases that have been signed in the shops of Stonefield. Organic Crush is coming to Stonefield. Solid Core is coming to Stonefield. Torchy Tacos coming to Stonefield. The team at Tallheimer does a phenomenal job with commercial leasing. A phenomenal job with commercial leasing, the Tallheimer team. Let me give you a little insight into first Organic Crush. Organic Crush you can find online at Organic Crush with a K. I'll read you their mission statement first. This is a restaurant. When we created Organic Crush, we set out to craft a menu that was loved by every single member of the family. We sauteed, we juiced, we smoothied, we baked, we sourced. We created a breadth of recipes that were delectable and organic. We fell in love with our food and just knew we needed to share it with you. We are your trusted source of delicious organic food and cold-pressed juices. We are committed to serving food that is free of pesticides, GMOs, hormones, and fake ingredients. We are passionate about being part of your wellness story. That's the mission statement of Organic Crush. The restaurant was founded in August of 2014 by 2 businesswomen, Fran and Michelle. Organic Crush with the K, look them up online, is a lifestyle eatery that prides itself in healthy, organic, and very clean cuisine. Organic Crush signed a lease at the shops of Stonefield, the Tallheimer team making moves times 3. The second lease signed in the shops of Stonefield is Solid Core. Solid Core is it's a gym. I guess you would call it a gym. It's a workout facility. Solid Core has locations throughout the country. I mean, we're talking probably, close to 50 locations across the country. Solid Core's got a spot at Libby Mill and in Short Pump in Richmond. Libby Mill and in Short Pump. Now they're opening in the shops of Stonefield. Tallheimer signed that lease. Well done there. And then the third piece of news we have to report today in the I Love Seville show is Torchy's Tacos. Torchy's Tacos, Torchy. Torchy's Tacos, you can find them online, it's a taco joint. It's a taco joint. They have locations all over the country as well. Look at their website online, torchystacos.com. They're in Virginia, Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Missouri, Louisiana, Kansas, Indiana, Colorado, and Arkansas. From a Virginia standpoint, Torchy's Tacos, it looks like this is their first Virginia location, at least according to their website. So Torchy's Taco, wow, they have a hell of a lot of locations in Texas. Check out the website, torchystacos.com. Shops at Stonefield have some of the highest leasing rates in the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. The shops in Stonefield and Barracks Road Shopping Center are the 2 most expensive of any shopping, dining destinations in this city. Not even close. Barracks and the shops at Stonefield, the 2 most expensive. Because these price points are high, you're often attracting businesses that are not mom and pops. The shops at Stonefield and Barracks Road Shopping Center, the overhead's so great, mom and pops cannot often afford these rental rates. That's why you see Organic Crush, Solid Core, and Torchy's Tacos, businesses and brands with not a lot of ties to Charlottesville, signing these leases. I again give props to the Tallheimer team for moving mountains, for finding tenants for vacant spaces. Do we want them to be local? Sure. The reality is in Barracks and Stonefield, that's likely not going to happen again. So instead of having empty storefronts, having businesses in the empty storefronts is better than having nothing at all. I'm going to be very curious about Organic Crush. I think the demographic of people that are, let's cut to the chase, in this municipality, in this jurisdiction, because of the influence of UVA, there's a lot of wealth here, a lot of education here, a lot of disposable income here, and the model that is Organic Crush coincides well with the affluence and education levels in this community. Clean food, healthy food, organic food aligns well with what Charlottesville wants. Torchy Tacos may be an affordable option that Stonefield needs. I mean, if you think shops at Stonefield, what are your most affordable price points there? Little John's is gone. You don't have a lot of affordability in the shops at Stonefield. Champion Grill affordable. I'll give Champion Grill affordable. Grit Coffee affordable. Both those local. Those are affordable. But you don't have a ton of super affordable food options in the shops at Stonefield. So Torchy's Tacos kind of fills a missing void there. 3 new businesses coming to the shops of Stonefield. We'll put more of that online on the I Love CVille show. And again, props to the Tallheimer team for moving mountains and getting these leases signed. Now, Alex Erpy is going to join us in about 4 minutes on today's show. Before we get to Alex Erpy, are you following what's going on at Nelson County High School? Oh, man. This past Friday, they were closed. Yesterday, Nelson County closed. No in-person learning. Initially, last week, the PR spin from the high school was, we need to do a deep cleaning of the school because of COVID. We just need to take a breather. You dig a little deeper, and you realize that there was a brouhaha, a brawl of epic proportions. We got video we're about to show you. I don't think that video is anywhere else except for the I Love CVille network. I may be wrong, but I don't think it's anywhere else. So here's the nitty-gritty. Here's the 411. 2 students get in a fight at the high school. You don't want to see it. You hate to see it. Fights are going to happen in high school. We all know that. So 2 students are fighting in the high school. A 3rd student comes to the protection or the aid of one of the 2 kids that were fighting. They're cousins. So the 3rd kid, a 15-year-old, comes to the aid of his cuzzo, and he says, I got your back, you're my family. In the process of getting his cousin's back, his cuzzo's back, 2 police officers, including the Nelson County Sheriff and one of his deputies, detain the 15-year-old. And that's the video we have to show you. The video I'm about to show you is not easy to digest. 2 police officers atop a 15-year-old kid. It's important you see this, though. Judah, do you have that video ready to go? All right. Judah Wickhauer is our fabulous director. What I'm about to show you is a bit graphic. What I'm about to show you is not what we want to see. But it's important we understand what's happening in our community. Judah Wickhauer in 3, in 2, in 1.
Get off of him!
Oh no, them niggas. This what Nelson do. That's what Nelson do. My nigga back up. Oh no.
Tooth, nigga. Oh damn. Nigga, brought my fucking tooth, nigga.
Hold on, this what y'all niggas on? This what them niggas on? Is this what niggas on? Is this what niggas is really on? Is this what
Do you
niggas
see what
is
they're
on?
allowing? Do you see this
Yo,
shit? Do you
free
see
time.
this?
Yo, that's fucked up. Yo, fuck 12. Fuck all 12. Yo, fuck all them niggas. Y'all niggas is lame. Niggas is lame. Niggas is lame. It's a bitch. Niggas is lame. I'm trying to get tea. Niggas.
Unfortunate incident there at Nelson County High School. So here's where we are. The Nelson County Sheriff's Office no longer leading this investigation. The Virginia State Police now leading the investigation. The 15-year-old who you saw on the ground there sustained some injuries, nothing life-threatening, some chipped teeth, currently in detention. And here's an interesting plot twist. The 15-year-old is in detention now because his mother wants him to stay there from a safety and protection standpoint. She's fearful of retribution or what could happen to her son. The students at Nelson County High School are planning a protest or a walkout of school. Nelson County Sheriff's Office no longer leading this investigation. Like I said, it's now the Virginia State Police. A fight between two people turns into a third party trying to protect his cousin who's involved in the fight. That translates into two grown men on top of a 15-year-old trying to detain, cuff, and arrest him. That young man in jail, in juvenile detention as we speak. I'm going to close this topic and go to Alex Erpy here in a matter of moments. I hope, as a dad, as a husband, that we can resolve this circumstances and these turn of events in Nelson County peacefully and in a way that will resonate positively within the community. You already have people in Central Virginia that are saying this is why we should not have officers in schools. It's just an unfortunate situation, man. A kid goes to have his cousin's back in a fight. Next thing, he finds himself in juvenile detention. And now there appears to be a rift between much of Nelson, its police force, its school system, and its student body. We need a guy like Jesse Rutherford, Nelson County Board of Supervisors, to stand up and galvanize this community again. And Jesse Rutherford's the type of guy who could do this. Friend of the show, stand-up guy, very well respected in the Nelson County community. We'll follow what happens closely on the I Love CVille network. I am reaching out, Judah Wickhauer, to Alex Erpy, the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, and we have Alex on the line. Que pasa, Alex? How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, my friend. Open-ended question. Tuesday, we had a red-hot market last week. Indices at all-time highs, approaching all-time highs. How's the market open-ended today on a Tuesday?
So today it's what we like to call flat. Meaning it hasn't been really doing much all day. It's in that waiting period. You know, a lot going on. Probably a lot to digest in terms of economic news. So we're seeing pretty much all the indices. If they're sometimes a little above zero, sometimes a little below, but a pretty quiet market, at least from an index standpoint this morning.
So we have a lot of macro forces impacting this market. We got a hurricane in Louisiana and New Orleans. We got the Fed giving very clear signals that the removal of financial stimulus is on the very near horizon. Mm-hmm. We got a housing market that is at its all-time high. I mean, we're talking of all time.
Oh, yes.
Of all time here.
I think the housing prices is the biggest jump in about 30 years.
In 30 years. I mean, it's just crazy here. So why don't we first start with the Fed and the removal of financial stimulus and whether, or first I'll start open-ended. How is that going to impact the market, do you think?
That's a great question. And so I think for the people who know us, you've probably heard in the news the word tapering. And tapering, what that means is, right, the Federal Reserve, one of the ways that they stimulate the economy is, I won't go into the details, but they try to increase the money supply. And tapering is them basically saying, we're going to be, instead of reinvesting whenever the bonds that the Federal Reserve owns come up again, instead of putting that money back in there, they're just going to basically let it stay with the Fed. They're not going to continue the same extent of stimulus that they've been doing. So that's what the tapering that you've probably seen on, CNBC and other places means. It basically means they're slowing down the extent to which they've been pumping money into the economy for the last 12 plus months. And that has you can sort of see the market trying to figure out what that means, because when money flows into the stock market, and we've seen this for 10 plus years, right? Those are usually opportunities for especially large companies to say, well, I can borrow at extremely low rates. I can then buy back my own stock. There's a lot of money to go around that can be reinvested in the stock market. Stock prices go up. So what you see traders trying to figure out today, I think a little bit is, do these really high valuations that we're seeing in the stock market still make sense without that stimulus? So in other words, it's a forward thinking. Because the market, one of the things we always tell people about emergence, is that the price you see in today's market is based on what people think is going to happen in the future. It's not based on what a company did in the last 12 months. It's based on what you think the company's going to do in the next 12 months. And so for the market as a whole, what we're looking at is saying, all right, market's at all-time highs. Do these valuations, and by valuation I mean basically maybe the price to the earnings, how much a company stock is worth versus how much it's bringing in. Do these valuations make sense if the Federal Reserve is not going to be pumping as much money into the system? And that's a really big question that we will find out over the course of the second half of the year, and it's always one of those big conundrums that's very difficult to say for certain.
Alex Zerpe, guys, CEO, Emergent Financial Services, co-host of Today y Mañana with Xavier, the closer, Yerpe, sitting shotgun with Alex. Are the values frothy here? I mean, for so long we've had the Fed backstop this economy. I mean, we've had a backstop of this economy essentially since the onset of COVID here.
I would go further. I think we've had a backstop in this economy since basically the tech bubble.
Okay, so he takes it even further back there. So are the values frothy? I mean, can we expect a massive decline? I mean, I'm looking at mine right now. Last year, I'm going to call it an anomaly. I know the ROI I get on my portfolio last year is an anomaly last year. This year, I'm at 14.5%. I mean,
which is still a sign of a very quickly moving and rapidly upswinging market.
So should we be concerned? Are we talking froth here?
See, that's an excellent question. It's one of those things where you sit here and say, economically speaking, right, when you expect a central bank to taper, you would sit there and say, all right, can the market actually sustain this, or is it going to have a correction? The challenge that we've had over the past 20 years is that every time we look and say, well, this is it, especially I would say over the last decade, post 08-09, you sit there and look and say, all right, this is it. It's time for the market to go down. And then the market has a little bit of a 10% correction, and the Federal Reserve comes out and says something. And sometimes they don't even do anything. They'll just come out and say, oh, well, don't worry. If things get bad, we'll take care of this. Well, then no options are off the table. We have more arrows in our quiver. They're masters of all the analogies you could possibly think of in the metaphors for how they can insert themselves into the market. And so I think the challenge as an investor that we have to be looking for is, okay, we may sit here and say the market is overvalued or there's the potential for correction. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen, because we're living in an environment that we haven't seen before. We're seeing central bank activity between the Federal Reserve, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank that we've never seen before. Right? It would have been inconceivable 20 plus years ago to have a Federal Reserve that basically said we're going to keep rates almost at zero for over a decade. And yet that's what we're seeing. And so the question is, has that changed the paradigm? Are we in a scenario now where every time the market looks like it might correct 10%, the Federal Reserve says something, oh, well, maybe we'll think about buying some more ETFs that have bonds, and suddenly the market comes back. And so that's what we have to sort of keep an eye on. And I think for us as investors, maybe I think one of the solutions that we tend to look at Emergent Financial Services is, instead of trying to time our exit from the market, in other words, here's when I need to get out so that I don't run into a scenario where my portfolio declines, maybe you adjust your percentage. You say, all right, if my portfolio is really aggressive right now, maybe I put it to a growth portfolio. In other words, tamp down a little bit on the risk by adjusting percentages. So you're still in the market, right? If you're a young guy like you're still on a growth phase. You're still sitting there saying, no, I want my stocks that have potential to really grow. I'm not going to go into bonds completely, right? But maybe you just adjust a little bit and say, all right, let me prepare my portfolio so that if this event, which may not occur, this 10% correction, 20% crash, right? If this event, which may not occur, actually occurs, I'm still okay. My portfolio is still reasonably placed for that, but I haven't bailed on the market. And then if it goes up another 20%, I'm sitting here saying, why did I exit too early?
Are any categories or sectors more susceptible to tapering and face potential more headwinds? For example, tech. Any sectors do you think are more vulnerable than others?
That's a great question. Typically, so I would say there's two parts. In regards to tapering itself, the large companies are probably the ones that have been benefited a lot from the ability to go and borrow at really low rates and then reinvest. On the flip side, the large cap companies, you're thinking your Apples, your Johnson & Johnsons, your Coca-Colas. On the other hand, they're what's called, particularly if you think of the Coca-Colas, the Johnson & Johnsons, they're what's called defensive stocks, meaning when things go south, when the market declines, they tend to hold up a little better because they don't go up that much to begin with. Whereas your tech, the reason I think it's important to think about tech, especially given what we saw in tech last year, how much it rose, is that tech can very much be what's called, it's very much a growth category. And so it's an aggressive category. And what you learn, I mean, one of the basic lessons that we always try to teach people in the way markets work is risk reward is on a spectrum. In other words, something that can go up 20%, there's a good chance it can go down 20%. Something that only goes up 2% probably might only go down around 2%. In other words, the more the more reward you want to get on the upside, that's the more risk you're taking on the downside. So tech is one of those high risk, high reward sectors. So that's one that's more susceptible. So what people will often do if you think, and this works if there's a recession coming, it works if you think there's going to be a market correction. In other words, if you can't identify a specific sector and say, this is the one that's going to fail. Like, as an example, if last year, oil price collapsing, very easy to look at energy and say, I want to get out of energy. But if you're faced with a scenario like this one where you're talking about a major market event, like in other words, something impacting the entire market with the Fed tapering or with coronavirus or with just an economy slowing down, what you typically do is you can do what people call is rotation. In other words, you say, all right, maybe I will adjust my percentages a little bit away from growth into those more defensive categories. So instead of being in cyclical categories, meaning cyclical stocks are those which they go up when the economy is doing well, they go down when the economy is doing poorly. You can always adjust a little bit and say, all right, maybe I'll go a little bit into defensive stocks, stocks that won't do as great if the economy goes up, but won't do as poorly if the economy declines a little or if the economy contracts. And so you can always adjust a little bit in that way with all your sectors, right? Especially if you're in a scenario where you're not certain, is this the one sector that's going to do poorly given what I'm looking at?
Alex Erpigay, CEO, Emergent Financial Services. You're looking to build your wealth. You're looking to grow generational wealth. help you to retirement, Emergent Financial Services, your choice. Pick up the phone, email, reach out to Alex Erpy, Xavier the Closer Erpy, Nicholas the Social Media Ninja Erpy, and I need a nickname for Michael Erpy. I got to find one for you, Michael. I will find one soon, I promise for you. All right, oil. I mean, we got a hurricane of epic proportions in Louisiana and New Orleans. How is this going to impact the oil industry, and how is it going to resonate within the industry down the road? How long is this impact going to be?
Exactly. Oil is one of those things that the one thing we can look at is what's called second order effects. So first order is the immediate impact, right? So you're talking a hurricane that hits basically one of the largest oil ports in the country, right? And you sit there and say, well, first impact, right? Price of oil might go up. Then you looked at, and the challenge is sometimes people stop there. And that's always a mistake if you just stop at the first one and say, okay, price of oil goes up, I need to adjust my thinking based on that. But sometimes you have to go to what's called second order. And and basically that just means ask the question of yourself, if oil goes up, what else goes up? And the more you think about it, right, the more you realize how much.
It impacts everything.
It impacts everything.
Yeah.
Transportation costs, the cost to produce certain goods, certain factories, the way they're run. So you look at it and say that's a major inflationary shock on pretty much everything going forward. And so that's one of the things you have to sort of think about and say, all right, what? And you can even go third order and say, all right, if the price of transportation becomes more expensive, do I have a lot of companies in my portfolio that rely on transportation of their goods and services that would be heavily impacted? And so you can go through and think about it that way, because there's no doubt it's going to be a major impact. What we just don't know right now is how much of an impact on the price of oil itself.
I mean, guys, you talk about prices going up. You need fuel and gas and oil for every supply chain, just about every supply chain in the entire world, in every category of business, housing, food. I mean, you're talking, everyone is using gasoline in some capacity, so it's something we got to follow very closely. What are you watching? What KPIs are you watching to see the impact that this is going to have on the industry moving forward?
In terms of the oil? So basically, one of the things you can look at, there's a couple things you can look at. I mean, price is going to take this into effect. Futures contracts, in particular, going to take this into effect because they're thinking
down the road,
long term. So if they're thinking, oh goodness, oil is going to be more expensive in the future, you're going to start to see futures contract prices tick up. Because if I think oil is going to be 20% more expensive 30 days from now, I'm probably willing to pay 10% more than I was yesterday to try to avoid a 20% hit 60 days from now. So you'll see that tick up. Sometimes you can watch the supply and demand issues. All right, what are the supplies looking like? Are there any places that are having shortages because supply is having trouble getting there? A lot of times it's funny, you can tell things in the market by how other people react. The market is like the world's, you have to remember with the stock market, I tend to think of it as like the world's biggest gossip institution. Because one guy says something to somebody else, oh, I better sell this, I better do that. And before you know it, you can see the movements of all these stocks and industries and sectors. And for all you know, it's moving based on some rumor that some guy heard that before has extrapolated to numerous people. So you can always tell a little bit of what's going on by how certain stocks and industries will change their prices, because price is forward-looking. So you can tell based on the prices what other people think is going to happen. You could also, I would argue, go down to your local gas station, and if they have ticked up the price by 3 cents, then you know what they're thinking, because they're going to put up the price now because they know that the oil they're going to get is going to be more expensive.
Are you envisioning $4 a gallon gasoline in 2021 this year?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I wouldn't put it beyond the realm of reason, just because there's a lot of headwinds in terms of pushing that price up between obviously that hack we had earlier in the year. Don't forget, we've We have made a conscious decision as a country that we ourselves, in terms of the United States, are deliberately pumping less oil for environmental reasons. That puts us a little bit more into the, I don't want to say the hands of, but we're a little more susceptible to the decisions of OPEC, which is the cartel of Middle Eastern oil companies. So in other words, if you think about it, when the United States is pumping a lot of its own oil, if OPEC says we want to push up the price of oil by constricting our supply, it has a limited impact, because the United States should just say, well, we don't care, we're going to pump more ourselves. And so we're going to keep the price low by pumping our own oil. When the United States tends to be out of the picture and says we don't really want to be pumping oil ourselves because we want to close down this refinery, or we want to close down this, we don't want to be drilling here, then OPEC, because they have a larger market share, OPEC can turn around and say, okay, if we want to push the price of oil up and make more profits, we'll constrict our supply, and there's nothing you can do about it at this point. And so that's a little bit why I think it was a month ago, you almost had the United States administration going to OPEC and saying, can you please pump more oil? Because we don't like these high prices. And OPEC really said, no, thank you. We kind of like these.
Yeah, they like it.
We kind of like
right.
these high prices. We're the producers. Right? They weren't exactly buying that buddy request there. So I think that's another major headwind, which makes us really susceptible, is you have something like this happens where the supply chain is interrupted, gives a little more leeway to the OPEC cartel to say this is a great opportunity for us to cut back a little and make some more money, make some more profit on the oil scene out there in the Middle East and in some other countries that are allied with them.
Smart man here, guys. Alex Erpy, Chief Executive Officer, Emergent Financial Services. Emergent Financial Services, the firm you want if you want to grow your wealth and prepare for retirement. You know, I'm going to try to localize this here to Charlottesville, and we'll localize this with the home price, the escalating values of homes, and the information you're about to relay to us. This is how I'm going to localize it. We potentially have $4 a gallon gasoline on the near horizon. We certainly are in agreement it's going to increase the cost of gas. It's going to go up. So let's take Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Limited housing inventory in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Very limited inventory, but demand is through the roof. When supply is low and demand is high, prices are going to go up with inventory. That's clearly happening now. So we have increasing housing prices. We have increasing gasoline prices, which could dissuade people from driving till they qualify, going to further counties where housing is more affordable. I mean, good night, Alex. It looks like Q4 of 2021 and much of 2022, the price shock, the sticker shock for a piece of real estate is going to only go north. I mean, you got limited inventory. You know people aren't going to drive as far anymore to buy houses because the cost of fuel is through the roof and it's going to only go up. So that means more buyers are going to potentially look closer to the epicenter of employment, the city of Charlottesville. From a local standpoint, it looks like to me the values of home are only going to escalate, and the national trend is also following suit. The show is yours, Alex.
No, it's a very challenging situation. I feel so much for people that cannot afford to live in Charlottesville and are now going to see their transportation costs, and have seen. I mean, the difference between last year and this year is already stark. And I'm now going to see their transportation costs increase and make it that much harder to make a living and be able to come into Charlottesville. And it's funny, I was having even on another perspective of this, I was having an interesting conversation today with someone who used to live in Charlottesville and moved out. They owned a home, and they left in part because the value of their home was so high, the property taxes became so high that they're like, we cannot, because it was one of those things, you know, think about it, if you lived in Charlotte for a while, paying very large property taxes, but your income is not actually equivalent to what your property is worth, you end up with one of those land rich cash poor situations where you sit there and say, I can't afford to live in a home that I own in Charlottesville. I have to actually move out and take on that additional cost because the value of my home was so high that I was getting these property taxes hit on it, which I thought was a really interesting perspective that came to me today. And so it just adds so much to the challenges that people are facing at this time. And it's definitely It's going to be rough, I think, a little bit to see what happens. And the hope is that, I mean, my hope is that what we do is make sure that we help people be successful here. In other words, there's only so much you can do. My philosophy tends to be every major city, everywhere in the world, has a shortage of housing, right? You will never, unless you build up and up and up and up, you always at some point reach where it is expensive to live in the inner urban ring. So for Charlottesville, my question is always, all right, we have this scenario, but and I know it's important to focus on the cost side, but one of the other things you can do, there's another side of that equation, which is the income side. So what can we do to raise people's income, right? To help people become more successful, help entrepreneurs, small business people be more successful, help their employees be more successful, so that those costs don't become as onerous because you're now more able to pay for them. I think there's two sides to the equation, and maybe me being an optimist likes to look at the other one and say, all right, yes, there's a lot of headwinds on the cost of living here, but maybe we can do some work and make sure that we've got some beautiful headwinds in terms of the ability to be successful living here.
Alex Erpy, guys, is just a breath of fresh air, man. He's the CEO of Emergent Financial Services and just a stand-up dude. His show, Today y Mañana, airs Thursdays at 10:15 on the I Love CVille network. And you know what? I will say this, Alex. One of my favorite qualities of you is your consistency with your demeanor. Every time I see you, I know the Alex that I'm going to be interacting with, and it's going to be a guy that's informed, a guy that's well-read, a guy that is a glasses half full mentality and perspective, and a guy that just embodies the golden rule. I mean, you are just A+ people in my book. Can you give us some insight into Today y Mañana and what you guys are planning?
Absolutely, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. I feel very similar. Just always great to interact with you, and we're positive people. We have
to be. We're entrepreneurs.
Exactly. We have to be. You got to think positive, and there's always hope on the horizon. You got to, and the goal is to bring light and joy to the world, not to add.
You do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, so we're going to try to bring some more light and positivity on Thursday.
Nice segue.
Today, Mañana. And one of the ways we'll do that is we've got one of my favorite things that brings happiness into the world, which is pizza.
Oh!
And so Dino from Dino's Pizza is going to join us. And so that's always a beautiful thing to talk about and bring some joy, a smile to people's faces with some pizza as well. I mean, he's in the dairy market. Great spot right there. So we're really looking forward to talking with him, having him on, as well as Andrew Pillifant. So he's the Director of Communications for Paramount Theater. Oh. So we'll have the Paramount on to talk about what's going on there, what are some new things you can go see there, because they're letting people in. There's new shows you can see. I think there's at least a couple Charlottesville Chamber Music Festival concerts that are going to be going on there. So we'll find out what's new, what's going on, and combine some good food with some good times.
Is Dino in studio?
Yes.
Awesome. Have you had a chance to chat with him?
No, not yet. This will be my first time.
Dude, you're going to love him. I mean, this guy is like a lovable, teddy bear. I mean, his pizza is amazing. He greets everyone with a smile. I mean, he's just a great guy, too.
I know he already is, even though this will be my first time meeting him. I know he is because one day I was walking through Dairy Market, and he's behind there making the pizzas. And he said, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, great to see you." And it occurred to me afterwards, he doesn't know who the heck I am. He's just so friendly that he was greeting everyone that walked into the Dairy Market as though he had known you for 5 years, and just walking by, how you doing? Hope you're having a great day. And it occurred to me afterwards, I actually don't know him. I've never met him before.
That is so Dino. My friend, a refreshing interview. I cannot wait to see you guys on Thursday. Say hi to the closer, say hi to the ninja, and say hi to the nickname-less Michael. We got to find a nickname for him.
We will. We'll rack our brains that it'll be our new mission.
All right, my friend. Good to see you today.
Nice to see you too. My best to Judah. Tell him I said hi.
All right. He says hello. He's waving to you right now. You have a good one, Alex. Take care.
You too.
Alex Urphy is the CEO of Emergent Financial Services. Emergent Financial Services, a name you can trust, guys. So a couple items out of the notebook that you may see on tomorrow's show, and frankly, you will see on tomorrow's show. Some news from the Charlottesville Police Department, more attrition and turnover. Assistant Chief of Police Jim Mooney is retiring tomorrow. He's retiring tomorrow. Remember, more than half of the department's officers responded, and 71% in a survey, and 71% say they have no confidence in the chief and command staff within Charlottesville Police Department. 82% of rank and file police officers in CPD say they were less likely to do their jobs out of fear of unfair retribution from department leadership. So you've had massive attrition and turnover within the CPD. Now the Assistant Chief of Police, Jim Mooney, retiring tomorrow. You'll see that topic on tomorrow's show. Also, Charlottesville, Virginia, I don't know if you saw this. I'll post this on the I Love Seville network. But Charlottesville, Virginia, the Charlottesville metro area, was named the 50th most expensive municipality to buy a home in the country. Charlottesville metro area, according to 247wallstreet.com, 247wallst.com, ranked Charlottesville the 50th most expensive metropolitan area in all of America to purchase a home. Think about that. All the metro areas in the country, and 247wallstreet.com, 247wallst.com, ranks Charlottesville the 50th most expensive metro area to buy a home in the country. That topic on tomorrow's edition of the I Love Seville show. Thank you for joining us on the program. We work hard to make this show informative and approachable for you. The only thing we ask in return, you tell a friend, you share the show, you like a show, you leave a comment for someone that's watching. That's the only thing that we ask in return from you guys. We love connecting with you guys through this platform. Wish you the best. Have a good afternoon. Take care.